Hey, welcome back to Driver 88. Hope you're all doing well. Today, the mods on the Cupra Leon 300 finally begin. I've had parts ordered for the last sort of 2 months or so, and the first round of them have arrived. So we're going to be tuning the car with Raceline Performance. We're going to be adding an intake, a turbo inlet pipe, and a much bigger intercooler. We're going to be heading on down to Fast Stuff in a minute and seeing what sort of numbers we get on the dyno in good time. What we're also going to be doing is adding a few little extra features like getting rid of start stop, which is a bit of a pain for me, pressing every single time you get into the car, and also somehow cleaning out my house a little while ago, I noticed a graph that I have from over 10 years ago, which is quite comparable to today's mods. So I used to have a Mark 6 Golf R in Stormtrooper spec in black and white, which was a pretty cool car back in the day, and I added a bunch of mods and got a dyno graph on that. Now this car made with a intake, a downpipe which cost 400 bucks, and now they're like 2.5 grand for God's sake, and it also had, I think, a high pressure fuel pump and an intake and a tune that made about 200 kilowatts and 400 newton meters at the wheel. And 10 years later, now we're going to be getting those figures with just a single tune from Raceline and from stock. So quite interesting to compare this graph to the graph at the end of this vlog, and we're going to see what sort of results we can get. Amazingly, with this Leon Cupra, we're going to be picking up at least claimed 104 horsepower with just the tune alone. We're going to be adding those mods on top as well, so I'm quite interested to see what numbers we get. On top of that, Raceline, they've been working on this tune apparently for 2 years. There's two different options. So there's a high torque tune and a low torque tune, and both of them have quite different graphs. So progression of torque is, I guess, a lot lower. Being a front wheel drive car, we're going to be making 480 newton meters at the crank just with the tune as claimed, rather than 500 newton meters, and that torque is going to be coming on a little bit later because we don't want to be just spinning the wheels. All right, I'm going to put this stuff in my car now, and we're going to head over to Fast Stuff and put these mods on. Let's go. So you might have spotted this Mark 8 Golf R, brand new, owned by Arvo. It's got the Raceline wheels on it, a tune, and yeah, we might have a look a little bit further at this one in future. Maybe take it for a drive for a bit of a comparison. Nice looking car. I think the Mark 8's has grown on me a fair bit. I remember having these wheels on my Mark 6 Golf R over 10 years ago, and I curbed the living crap out of them. There's also these Raceline wheels, which look not too bad. I do have wheels coming for mine. I've waited 2 months and they still have not arrived. So you'll know when I know. So we've got this thing up on the hoist, just letting it cool down because I drove here for an hour. It's got to be one of the ugliest engine bays I've ever seen. Believe it or not, Cupra said that they were going to give us engine covers, but they were delayed. But I don't really care because I'm not looking at that much. So we're going to double the surface area of the filter by taking this out and putting our R600 on. Intercooler is there by Integrated Engineering, and that's going to take maybe a few hours because unfortunately with these cars it's not like some JDM stuff where you just pull an intercooler out and then slap one back in. We need to take off this front bar, the lights, the radiator, obviously the old intercooler out and all this sorts of stuff, and then put the new one in. So that is that. Let's get started. This is the thing here that's like making all our lives far more boring and difficult, because with exhaust systems and stuff, if I was to take this out, I'd get a bunch of codes and the car would not be happy with me. Even though the car is so quiet, as we'll see in a minute, it's just, they're so quiet now stock. So we've taken off the fans and the piping, which I was asking Arvo if it's really worth upgrading the piping, but not really unless we're going absolutely crazy under heavy conditions. What have we found, tell me?
That was just floating around in there.
So it's supposed to be clipped in.
Clipped in like that.
It was just floating around. This is a truly Spanish car. Spanish-German. So this is the third thing that we've seen. This auxiliary radiator was not even clipped in properly. It was just kind of loose. And we've seen that like 3 different times. So Arvo's fixing my car while also taking it apart, which is great. So inlet pipe is off. So Arvo's just telling me this intake. Now we have 2 inlets, I guess, and this one's blocked off. That's the stock front section. So interesting. Don't know why they've done that. We are loading 1%. It's 1% for each horsepower. That's what, Arvo? How much power do you think it's going to make? It's no harm in guessing. No harm in guessing.
It's going to make all the horsepower.
All the horsepower.
All the horsepowers.
Oh yeah, this is one thing I need to upgrade. Is this stick. I need a gas strut. We'll get that soon enough. Should add some horsepower as well. So we have an all-wheel drive hub dyno. That is the way to go in my opinion. Crazy setup at Prestige Auto Works. With all the lighting, the screens, lounge area, bar. Very, very cool. And pretty much every brand you could imagine. Usually a VAG focus, but these days, absolutely every car you can imagine at Prestige Auto Works, from Maserati, Ferrari, McLaren, AMG, you name it, it's here. So peak power is coming at 4,500, 4,600 RPM. Zach was just saying how restricted it feels because of that massive OPF. I think a downpipe would make a massive difference, but considering it's barely any mods for this car, pretty impressive so far. So just under 400 horsepower at the wheels, just under 300 kilowatts. Nice and linear as well, seemingly. So performance now. You drop it down to S and there's just super strong acceleration, particularly on the freeway when you want to overtake. There's really barely any lag. It's really impressive. 0 to 100 numbers. Look, this is a front wheel drive car, we can sort of forget about that, but yeah, I'm seriously impressed with how this thing pulls along. You might be able to hear the car was perfectly silent before, and now it makes like this strong suction noise. It's still pretty quiet, but for a daily car, I don't need it to be making like a snap, crackle, and pop noises for my daily car. I just want good responsiveness. Really kicks up. From 80 kilometers per hour, this feels super potent. Like, I'm really impressed with how easily it drops down the gears. It's just an angry little guy now. And one more thing about the dyno figures. So we got a little bit over 700 newton meters on that graph. Zach was telling me that's derivative torque. I'm not sure exactly what that means. If you know what that means, maybe you could let us know in the comments. Keep in mind also that 700 and so newton meters is on the low torque file from Racing Line, because of course this is a front wheel drive platform. So on the high torque tune, it would make even more torque than that. So not only do we have completely normal drivability in your standard modes, my fuel consumption hasn't gone up at all, even though we've added well over 100 horsepower, which is seriously impressive. So back to the start of the video, over 10 years ago I had that Mark 6R, and I understand that that was all-wheel kilowatts versus front-wheel kilowatts, but it just shows you how much progression the VAG or group has basically progressed in over 10 years. So without a downpipe and without extra fueling, we're making 400 horsepower or close enough at the wheels. And the great thing about this now is that when you put the car into Cupra mode or simply change the gearbox into S, it's massively transformative. It just is seriously an angry car now. As Zach said, basically you got that still OPF is quite a big restriction, but now I sort of want to put a few more external bits on it and make this thing look a little bit more interesting. Let me know if there's any other mods you think I should do, but otherwise, thank you very much to Prestige Auto Works, and thank you very much to Arvo from Fast Stuff. So guys, we're very, very close to 1,000 subs. If you could please subscribe if you wish. We've got lots of cars, reviews, exposés on our friends' car collections, all that sort of stuff. And we shall see you next time.